The Rocket Review is sponsored by Why Not Saloon.
We're so pleased to have on the president and CEO of Musicians on Call, Pete Griffin, and also one of the musicians from Musicians on Call, Sarah Harralson. Sarah and Pete, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
You know, I've been wanting to do this for so long because I love what Musicians on Call does. And Pete, I want to kind of talk with you. You know, this past year has been the 25th anniversary, hard to believe. But this year is the year of expansion, you know, hitting more states and everything. Talk a little bit about that with Musicians on Call, Pete.
Yeah, you know, our mission is to provide the healing power of music to people in healthcare environments. So we're bringing musicians like Sarah into hospitals every day all around the country, playing for patients, their family members, caregivers. And honestly, our mission is to not only do that, but do it for as many people as we possibly can. And so, you know, with 2025, we're trying to get more people involved with us. We want to get more musicians, more volunteers, so that we can really bring this healing to people all across the country.
Well, you know, and as we know, all three of us, that, you know, music heals, you know, all of us, but particularly when we can share this with people. And with 33 million people in hospitals, and Sarah, I want to talk about this to where you've been a part of Musicians on Call, what, since 2015?
Yeah, for 9 years now.
You know, and how many people have you played to? I mean, I know it's, you know, not just children, it's families, it's veterans and everything, but you've played to people like in the thousands, right?
Yes, through in-person and virtual programs, I've been able to play for over 19,000 patients.
That's crazy. That's like a tour.
It is, yeah.
And especially in your spare time, you know, you're doing your own original music and you've got singles and everything coming out. But, you know, as a musician, Sarah, what does it feel like for you being a part of Musicians on Call to share, you know, with families? And we were talking about some of the songs and everything, and that a lot of times you play covers, but also they request your originals also. But how does that feel going in and playing at these hospitals and sharing your gift?
Yeah, it's just so rewarding every time I go into the hospital because it's always a different experience every time when I play music for patients. And it's rewarding for me because I get to give music to patients who really need to hear some music. A lot of people don't really understand that hospital patients need music the most. They're not able to get out there and go to concerts. So if I play a song that they love, it can just make them forget that they're in pain or forget that they're in a hospital, even if it's only for a few minutes.
So powerful. And Pete, I was going to bring up to where Musicians on Call was launched in New York City originally. You've been with the organization for 10 years, seen a huge amount of growth now. And, you know, across the entire United States and certainly, you know, Nashville, Baltimore, the list goes on, but also kind of spread out to 50 states. And with this year, there is a drive to get more talented musicians like Sarah involved with Musicians on Call.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we want to be in all the top hospitals in all the major cities and even rural communities across the country. So that's going to take a lot of effort on our part, but it's also going to require us to find a lot of people that want to volunteer in their communities. And that's, I think, really the brilliant part of our program is that in all these places that we have programs, it's fueled by local volunteers, people that want to give back in their own communities. The other thing that's really neat about it is that we don't just need volunteer musicians, but we also have what we call volunteer guides. And these are non-musicians like myself who I wouldn't want to trouble anyone to listen to me pick
now
up
you
a
can
guitar.
play a few chords and everything, and you do have guitars in your office. I'll vouch for that.
I do have guitars in the office, but I wouldn't want to pain anyone to listen to me play. But the cool thing is someone like myself who loves music and wants to give back can volunteer as a guide. And so in that role, you're taking musicians like Sarah around room to room in the facility. So you're helping to facilitate the interactions between the musician and the patients that they're playing for.
Right.
And so it's such a cool way to be involved with a music charity for people that just love music.
Well, and I think also, you know, I think what is so great with Musicians on Call is that with the artists like Sarah, to where, you know, they're performing, having the guides along, then they can sort of, you know, take them from room to room and keep things moving, because I know as musicians, we get kind of focused when we're playing and performing, and it helps to have someone else there and go, okay, now we're going to room 236. to keep you. Does that help you, Sarah, while you're doing this?
It does, because I kind of like to stay focused on maybe what I'll be playing next or getting ready for the next patient. And it's just good to have the guide as a buffer in case the patient says, no, I'm not really feeling like hearing music tonight. It can be a little bit uncomfortable if the musician gets said no. So I think it's definitely wonderful to have a guide there with you just to be a part of the experience as well.
Well, and as it's really putting yourself out there too, like you and I were talking, certainly with you doing your original music and being here in Nashville, coming from Knoxville, Tennessee, but you're putting yourself out there. It's just like when you go out and play, a gig around town or around the country or a songwriter round, it's the same thing when you're performing, you're in a hospital and you're performing for this person that's in the hospital or the family or whatever, and it's powerful. And you have to be in the right mindset.
Yes.
To accomplish that. Well, Pete, I was going to bring up too, over the past few years, you've gotten some nice awards, with the Anthem Award and everything also. So, I think this Musicians on Call thing is going to work out for you.
You know what? It's going really well, and I will say this, that those recognitions are nice, but it's really a reflection on our team at Musicians on Call and the wonderful volunteers we have, because the truth is we're a very small organization, Musicians on Call, in terms of our staff.
Right.
It's only about 20, 25 people that run this across the country. But what we're powered by is all the incredible local volunteers. And so when all these great things happen to Musicians on Call, or you hear wonderful things about things that we're doing, or we get awards, it's really because we've got these incredible people on the ground that are not only talented at what they do, but they're extremely kind and empathetic and giving of their time.
Right.
And it's funny because when we're in the hospitals and we're walking around with volunteers and musicians, everybody loves the music. When you hear Sarah sing, you're just like, oh my gosh, how could you not feel good hearing her sing? Right. But a lot of times the families will come to us in the hallways after the musician leaves and says, it wasn't just great to hear someone like Sarah sing, but just the fact that people in our community are willing to volunteer their time to visit a stranger when we're going through a tough time just means so much to us.
Right.
And I think that's the human element that this program brings as well. It's not just the music, but it's the fact that we're bringing caring people from the community to people that need, a little pick-me-up. And so that's the fun part of it also.
Well, and I think all of us can use pick-me-up. And like I brought up too with the veterans and with all of the people that, you perform for, it's such a powerful thing, Sarah, to be able to share your music and your gifts with those people in person. And I know certainly during the pandemic, we were talking before we came in studio to where Musicians on Call, very wisely so, took everything virtual, and you did a lot of virtual performances as well. But now, fortunately, we're back in person. And I've got to ask you this, Sarah, what are the most requested songs that you get when you're playing in hospital?
It honestly depends which hospital I'm at. If I'm at the Children's Hospital, they want to hear Disney or whatever, the current popular song is, which I don't always know anymore. So,
right.
But veterans, usually they like to hear some classic country. So I always try to accommodate requests. I like to ask patients, what do they want to hear? And if they're up for whatever, I just try to play like a familiar song that everyone would know. So I have a fun time playing some some covers and then originals if they want to hear any of my own music as well.
Well, especially when you've had, your past album that came out and then your single Denim, which has been hitting the radio. And I know that more singles and more songs are coming out this year as well. So do you feel like, practicing and performing out, with Musicians on Call, does it make you better with your original music also?
I think so, and just through a lot of the experiences I've been through with Musicians on Call, and playing for patients has put a lot of things into perspective for myself and my own career, and has made me realize why I do music, and it's to give the healing power of music to other people. Right. So when I'm sitting down and writing a song, I always like to think about how other people would relate to it or what they could take from it.
That's amazing. Well, Pete, I was going to bring up too, you and I were talking, and once again, love the new logo that you guys, updated that logo. Incredible. But, for people that want to, the musicians and people that want to be guides or people that just want to donate, with Musicians on Call as this continues to expand and potentially even internationally.
Right.
You know, how can people become involved in this great action that's happening in the hospitals and everything? How can they be a part of it, Pete?
Yeah, so it's really simple actually, because if you go to our website, musiciansoncall.org, that's where it all starts. So sometimes I'll be out, you know, and seeing a musician play, and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I know about Musicians on Call. I'd love to get involved, but how do I do it?" It's simple. Just go to musiciansoncall.org/volunteer. And during the pandemic, we really invested a lot in technology to make training and onboarding and scheduling visits very easy.
Wow.
So that all happens on our website. So if anyone out there is watching and they say, "I want to be a volunteer musician, I want to be a volunteer guide," they go to musiciansoncall.org/volunteer, and the entire process of onboarding and training happens online. So they can get through all of that, and then once they do, we can work with them to figure out what opportunities there are in the communities that they're in, or if there isn't a program where they're at the moment, they could also do virtual programs where they might be able to perform for people over Zoom across the country. So there's opportunities for everybody if they want to be involved, and it just starts at our website.
Well, and I know that you've also had a lot of A-list artists. We were talking about Conan O'Brien, but there's been a lot of major artists besides Sarah that have been involved with Musicians on Call and continue to be a part of this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, from every genre of music, from every era of music, we've had people supporting us. I mean, from Bruce Springsteen to Dolly Parton to Ed Sheeran and Olivia Rodrigo. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's really hundreds and hundreds of major label artists that have volunteered with us through the years. But, you know, as you were talking earlier with Sarah about the impact that music can have on musicians, it reminds me of when I was here in Nashville on a visit with Keith Urban. And he came by, and we were going room to room at this TriStar Centennial Hospital here in Nashville. And as he was playing for these kids and their families in the hospital, you know, one of the things that he commented on was how, you know, playing all these arena shows across the country and around the world is incredible, but playing that one-on-one performance reminded him of why he got into music. Right. So it doesn't matter if you're just starting out or if you're selling out arenas around the world. It really is kind of a reset button where it reminds you this is what it's all about. No matter where I'm at in my career with success or struggles, this is why I got into music, because you want to create that connection with people. And when you're playing in front of somebody who's going through what might be the worst day of their life, there's nothing more powerful than knowing that you can make a difference through your talents and your time.
Totally. And Sarah, I want to bring up also, with your new single out that's doing so well on radio and with more singles coming, and that Takamine won't buy its own guitar strings. What is the website that is the best place for our viewers to go to check out all of your music and to come and see you live?
Yeah, you can find me at sarahharralson.com for all my new music and upcoming shows.
I'll tell you what, it's such a great cause. Musicians on Call, be a part of it. Go to the website, whether you're a talented musician like Sarah, or you'd like to be a guide, or you just want to donate. It's spreading throughout the United States, as it should. Music is an incredible gift to be able to share with people and to uplift them, particularly in their time of need at hospitals. Pete Griffin, Sarah Harralson, Musicians on Call, thank you both for joining me.
Thanks so much for having us.
The Rocket Review is sponsored by Why Not Saloon.